Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Padashri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Okay. Hare Krishna devotees. All right. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Charini Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pashatya Deshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadigaur Bhaktavini Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so today we are last time, let us see Srila Prabhupada's what he said about okay. So we are reading, this was a conversation with the GBC Srila Prabhupada was having. Now, he had made the GBC in 1970, and then 72 April or so, they're trying to create an umbrella corporation, something. And so he disbanded the GBC. And then he had a meeting later when he was reinstating the GBC back again. And there he made this observation. So there he says, yes, we must expand. We must expand. Now the framework of expansion is done by me, but they should be solidified. Just like your skyscraper building, the framework is done. Then they are made nicely air conditioned and covered by glass. It makes a nice house. Similarly, so far the framework is done. I have done with your help. Now we have to push this movement. It is very important movement. It is not a farce. It is actually for the benefit of the human society. They are kept in darkness about God, and we are delivering God. Here is God. So that must be pushed. So now this, from 1971 onwards, he started saying this. There are many we read last time, so I don't want to go on that again. So that's what we are trying to understand. What is that framework of expansion or framework he made for this movement? And why is it that that framework is not working anymore? What does it include? What does the framework include? And because if we understand that, first of all, we will understand Srila Prabhupada more. We will understand him, meaning we will love him more, and we will also appreciate him more, and we will appreciate the Krishna consciousness movement and our own progress. That's the most important. And also then we can try to desire to be an instrument to assist him again to rebuild it. Just like he's saying, I have done with your help. See? So, of course, he's doing it. And with our help, meaning we get engaged in this. There's another place he says it's an adventure. Let me, another, making the framework is the adventure. Uh, that gone. But that's what we can be part of. Making the framework is the adventure. I'll pull it up and post it later. So so what is the framework? Now let's go look at Srila Prabhupada when he first came to the US. He he started there. Markine Bhagavad Dharma. Okay. So this is Srila Prabhupada's poem on in Boston Harbor on September 18th, 1965. And we start here because this is what a pure devotee, he's coming from the spiritual world, and he is spiritual master. Of course, it's all a pastime happening. It's a great pleasure. His spiritual master has ordered him, and he's coming to the West. And this is where he is expressing his views on how he is going about doing it. And when we say framework, this is where he starts. Would somebody like to do this great service of reading this? Anyone? Somebody? No one? Leo Prabhu, you want to read? Are you free to read? Yeah. Okay. Markine Bhagavad Dharma, written at Boston Harbor, September 18, 1965. Okay, no problem, Prabhu. बड़ो कृपा कैले कृष्णा धर्मेर प्रति की लागिया नीले हेता कोरो एब गति. Translation: My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. आछे किछु कार्य तब ई अनुमाने नहे के नो आनी बेन ई उग्रस्थाने. Translation: But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Rajastamo gune ara sabai achana achan Vasudev ka katha ruchi nahe se prasanna. Translation: Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudev. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. Tabe jadi taba kripa hoye hai tukhi Sakali sambhava hoye tumi se kautuki. Translation. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. Ki bhave bujale tara buje se rasa. Eta kripa koro prabhu kori nijbasa. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. Tomara ichaya sabha hoye maya basa. Tomara ichaya nasha maya parasa. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. Taba ichha hoye jadi tare tadera udhara. Bujibe nishchai tabe katha se tomara. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. भागवतेर कथा से तब Bhagavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. Shanvatam swakatah Krishna punya shramana kirtana hidayantosto abhadrani vidunoti suhitsatam nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki तदा रजस्तमो भाव कामलोभादयश्चये चेतयेतेरनावितं स्थितं सात्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्ति योगतः भागवत तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदय ग्रन्थे छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्टा एवात्मनीश्वरे. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 17 to 21, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. At the time loving service is established in the heart, the modes of passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, and lust and desire, kama, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes happy. Thus established in the mode of goodness, the man rejuvenated by loving service to the Lord gains liberation from material association, mukti, and comes to know scientifically of the personality of Godhead. Thus the knots of the heart and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions, karma, is terminated when one sees the self as master. Rajastamohate tabe paibe nishtara hidayera bhadrasava guchi betahara. He will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. Ki kore bujabe kata ko consciousness. I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Athacha enecho Prabhu katha boli bare, je tomara icha Prabhu koroi bare. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. Akhila Jagat Guru Bachana se amara Amar Alankrita Koribar Khamata Tomar, O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Taba kripa haila mora katha shuddha habe, shuniye sabara shoka dukha se guchibe. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Aniyacho jadi Prabhu amare na chate, na chao Prabhu, na chao se mate. Kashtera putli jatha nachao se mate. Oh Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. Bhakti, bhakti nahi, bhed nahi, name khub daro. Bhakti Vedanta name be sarthak koro. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, in USA, dated 18 September 1965. Second. Okay. So this is where he started. Of course, he knows everything Krishna is in his heart, but when he says that the population here is engrossed in modes of modes of passion and ignorance, and so this is what he this was his. So two things, as I recall, and we can discuss this. First, he was first he prayed. He know that Krishna has put them in ignorance, so he can remove that ignorance. And to do that, he says, I pray that you do so. So, where did he say that? I wish that you may deliver them. Taba ichha hoye, jadi tandera udhar, bujibe nishchay, tabe katha se tomar. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. So, this desire is coming from Lord Chaitanya, of course. And Lord Chaitanya is acting as a devotee, and he's there basically the acharyas, and he's coming down. And Srila Prabhupada also, as an acharya, as a great devotee, he is requesting Krishna that please deliver them, please remove the ignorance. And that desire is the main thing, he is desiring. And then the second thing he did was he spoke the words. He was translating the Bhagavatam, but also he himself is coming. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, serving of the regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee. So, and then we see later on, he, of course, hearing the Bhagavatam and worshipping, like serving the pure devotee, and then holy name. He says, I have no devotion, nor do I know, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. So these are the four things. I mean, first is his own prayer to the Lord, that please make this happen. He's desiring intensely. Second, I see what is happening is he himself is coming and giving opportunity to the people of mode of ignorance to serve him, and so that they get purified just by serving, and develop sukruti, they develop the taste in hearing. And what hearing? Bhagavad philosophy, directly about Krishna, and his pastime and his position. And of course, the fourth is the chanting and hearing of the holy name. Strong faith in the holy name, that in Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam Kevalam. Now, this is what I feel, because of his, from his letter, from his poem, this is what he built his whole, let's call it in material terms, ministry. The whole religion, transcendental religion, the whole movement on this basis. Why don't we discuss this? What do all of you feel? Anyone there? Hare Krishna.
I mean, that's definitely the starting point, right? For the movement in the West. So we see definitely Prabhupada's desire here. We also know that even back in India, Prabhupada created what I think is called the League of Devotees, right? Was also, as far as I understand, a registered organization. So you could also already see that that his desire manifested there as well already, right? And yeah, definitely, it's a good starting point, to discuss the framework, because of course, the framework starts. What is the seed of the framework, right? And it's a desire, or his wish, to deliver. Yeah.
Anyone else?
You can also take it much further back than that, was when he received the order of his spiritual master. The spiritual master specifically said, "You know English, so why don't you preach this message in English?" So Prabhupada often says or refers to that's the point. Because, seemingly in the Leela, at that time he was a Gandhi supporter, seemingly materialistic, blah, blah, blah. Bhakti Siddhanta just cut that illusion or that misconception. I said, no, it's an urgent situation. You should preach ASAP. Still, of course, Prabhupada says himself that he always carried that message with him, but
in terms of But in terms of discussing the framework, would you also say that this already started there? I mean, for sure, right? So if the order of the spiritual master of Bhaktisiddhanta was like that, and basically that meant you have to have a framework to preach, you could argue like that, but do you think I mean, yeah, it's not untrue. I would say yes, but if you more specifically discuss framework, I would say it's a bit later in the, how to do that. When Prabhupada also started to distribute his first magazines and all that, right, back in India, and where he saw that, oh my, so much struggle, right? He did it all on his own. And so because there was no framework at the time, it was just, okay, I do what my spiritual master said. But then seeing the struggle, then probably more and more, kind of came the realization, I don't know, but more and more it was apparent that, okay, there needs to be a more sophisticated framework similar to Gaudiya Math, which is also a framework for the preaching, right? But then become defunct or not as effective anymore, let's say.
You see, Srila Prabhupada states himself, I've heard this directly from Prabhupada, that he got the order of his spiritual master, although he didn't do it, he was always meditated on it. He was always thinking how to do it. Okay, got the order, how to do it.
Good point.
So it
Yeah.
was always, it's kind of part of the reason why he kind of left his wife, seemingly, let's say, and then went on eventually to take sannyas. But of course, in between all that time, he was helping preach and helping serve the Gaudiya Math devotees, which he was very impressed with, he states himself. And then eventually he went on to what? Open the League of Devotees, as you say. I mean, it seems like that everything springs from the desire, the order of the spiritual master, then Prabhupada's desire to, as Nimai Pandit Prabhu always tells us, you've got to have this feeling in your heart that I gotta save, I gotta try to save, at least try these conditioned souls that are actually suffering. So from that desire, the hand of God is there, of course, and then it kind of naturally takes its shape, organic, let's say.
That's true.
I don't think Prabhupada was ever thinking, oh yeah, I want to preach, but there's got to be like structure or this. I think the structure, I mean, I'm saying just, but it kind of naturally takes its shape as devotees come and as people join.
True, but I think also, I mean, he witnessed himself that his godbrothers disrespected the wish of their spiritual master, not really founding a governing body commission, and that was, I think, also like a strong motor.
But that's much later, isn't it? That's later when the organization was.
No, yeah, right. But you said that because you said that, I mean, he's considering all along, right? So basically, the seed is planted with this order of his spiritual master. The seed is planted, and then he's considering it all along, witnessing what's going on in Gaudiya Math. At some point, then when he gets his first, has a league of devotees, and then finally in America, he's basically, I mean, it doesn't take long before he starts founding the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, right? So because he, of course, and you can only do that. I mean, there has to be much thought behind already, right? So it's not that you do something like, oh, I'm here now, like it only takes me 2 weeks to figure all these things out, right? So I mean, of course, speaking again, material terms maybe a bit, but so in that sense, yeah, I would also say definitely it started much, much earlier, and maybe also all these experiences that are connected with that.
Nimai Prabhu, just out of clarity for history, when Prabhupada was in America and Bhaktisiddhanta had already left his body, obviously. So at that time, he was still very positively, what's the right word? Positively looking towards the Gaudiya Math, because he kept on inviting them and telling them, okay, I've got men now, I've got money. Let's work together to please Bhaktisiddhanta. Let's cooperate and work together. Is that right?
Under his direction.
Yeah, of course.
That's how it works. So that Srila Prabhupada made he calls it, there is only two parties. One is a pure devotion party. There is a non-pure devotion, materialistic. Only two in the spiritual realm in Bhagavata Vidhi, in that sense. So let's say, even in our context, the real ISKCON, anybody from the Maya ISKCON, I mean, we are now very, very tiny compared to the manifestation of ISKCON that we see. But if the philosophy is correct, which it is, and our understanding is correct, which I hope it is, and with discussion, then this movement of having Srila Prabhupada in the center and with faith in him and hearing and will become quadruply more bigger and everything. Then the hope is that those devotees can also, some of them, the innocents, they will follow. under that direction. So I mean,
I think it's already happening, right? I mean, with Bangalore being what they
in
are,
India, very good.
yeah,
Yeah,
already
definitely.
quite a few ISKCON people are looking at it and say, okay, they're
That-
doing everything we're doing, they're powerful, they're big, they're getting bigger. Prabhupada is at the center, they seem to make more sense, and especially Guru Tattva stuff. So let's go over there, let's check it out,
Definitely. So that's the way. So under his direction, he can invite anybody, from devotees. He was giving opportunity to everybody because they were also his spiritual master's disciples, wayward but spiritual, his disciples. So
Sorry, what are we talking about now? Can we use names? I got confused there.
Srila Prabhupada was giving the God brothers
Huh,
opportunity to come and serve under him, under his direction.
right.
Many times he did that. Even in Mayapur, when he was having this everybody come and meet, all these meetings with the God brothers, it was that you work under the direction. Puri Maharaj, he says, we can build and under our direction it will go. And they didn't want to do that. You know. So that's always there. If you're under his direction, so everybody should have surrendered to him instead of they made a GBC, they should have made a GBC. And then Srila Prabhupada says, that a self-manifested Acharya would appear. They would have surrendered to him, even though God brothers, but just like Ramanujacharya, his God brothers were all God brothers, but they surrendered to him as the Acharya. So similarly, it would have happened and everything would have been fine. So that's how he continued. He can't help it that he is the Acharya, no? He is surrendered, fully surrendered. So he's giving them opportunity all the time. And till the end, he kept on giving them opportunity, manifest presence. Lot of love and lot of affection on behalf of his spiritual master. Because it's his duty to deliver them. So older God brothers, they take up that responsibility. So so let's discuss this, these four uh, items, basic framework which he is saying. The desire of him, his desire. So thing is, if like we have been talking again and again that everything boils down to our, like if we little bit start offending, in one sense, manner, if we early, Krishna may not remove the illusion, however much we preach. It is all up to him finally. However much we try to preach, whatever we try to do, if he decides, no, I am not, why should I? Then what can one do? So it's all finally, the first is the desire of the pure devotee that he wants to deliver this world, especially the Western world. That is where the whole thing is starting. That's the basic of the framework. So we have to cooperate with him and love him and like worship him like everything. Like glorify him. Center of everything is revolving around him because we are all dependent of our own practice, our own chanting, our own like anything that we are doing, we are able to do. It's boiling down to this first, the desire of Srila Prabhupada. His prayer, Krishna, please deliver us. So, and then the gratefulness and all that will follow. And then Srila Prabhupada says the principle of eternal servitorship to the spiritual master. You know. And then the second thing is he is giving opportunity to serve him directly. So again, it is him. Bhagavata is without serving him, we don't get the desire, the taste of hearing in the philosophy. We may get because of past sukriti here there, but the constant pure taste, meaning taste to hear, to purify and to achieve Krishna and to achieve his service, all the pure devotional desires, because by his association, he has them. By association, we also get those same qualities. So, I mean, soon. It's not like in some lifetimes or many lifetime. No, very soon we can get by his association. So and in that association, then we hear the Bhagavatam, just like what we just heard. So that acts, but everything has to revolve around the strong faith in chanting the holy name. And that's what he did. This is his basically the spiritual framework. No, what I see it is this mark in a Bhagavata mark in the Dharma. We don't have to like speculate what Srila Prabhupada did or what we need to do again, or it's the same. This is what it is, the formula. Of course, he built upon it, and then there are many things we should. I mean, what we have been discussing is the Bhagavata Vidhi, the focusing on him and his desire and his personality like that. But the Bhagavatam, the philosophy wise, of course, that practically it's okay, purely hearing from him. But I wanted to take up the holy name, the strong faith in the holy name, and what he did. So he basically that if that is there, the first thing about love for Srila Prabhupada and appreciating him and all that, and then Nectar of Devotion, 7 chapter, the first thing about taking shelter of him, then it's all boils down to the chanting. Finally, it's constantly how under his direction. So he talked about my time has become so limited, so I'm not able to pull all these things with his instructions. But he talks about the uh, the chanting without the mm, offenses, the 10 offenses. How can we perform? How we do it is only one thing we have to do to actually to not commit the 10 offenses. And that one thing is chanting under the direction of the spiritual master. If we chant under his direction, meaning not like a philosophical direction, or it has been told for us to chant, so we are chanting. No, the consciousness of chanting because he has ordered. So he is there in our consciousness next to us, and he's telling us to chant, whether on the beads or on Sankirtan. In that consciousness, it is pure chanting. It's offenseless chanting because we are doing it under his direction. Even though we may commit so many offenses, and he forgives them, because we are doing it under his direction. Then it becomes very effective, the chanting, suddenly. Like magically, one can be transported to the spiritual world practically under his like parole. Prabhupada calls it of giving a parole. Criminal is given a parole, no, for so he doesn't have to be in the jail, but he can be sent back to jail anytime because he is a criminal. So he gives a little relief from the Maya and from that. So basically, this framework of chanting, how that we should discuss. I feel that is where, I mean, when I first came back to the US in 2000, and I was trying to understand how to do this, and near Tompkins Square Park, I was living there, and that's what I was thinking how. And then I was chanting all around Tompkins Square, the oak tree, Srila Prabhupada's tree. Every day I would do my 16 rounds. And then gradually I started to like really understand this part about the holy name, that under his direction, and that we should chant, and like how he invited the holy name, he get like the holy name incarnated from the spiritual world into that Tompkins Square Park, and it just evolved like and spread from there. So that is where he and so the whole thing about how the whole chanting he did and his mood in chanting is like we need to become professors of that, like studying how the chanting needs to be, how the chanting should be done, not a mechanical like like a whole thing, but the mood under his direction, faith in his instructions, so that whenever we hear anything what he says about the holy name, that we take as complete fact. And like that simple faith, chanting with that simple faith and just without any fear going out or in the temple or no beads anywhere we chant that mood no in the chanting, and then chanting in a meditative manner, and we build upon it one by one and really see one day it didn't happen, why didn't it happen, what did we do, and then that's the whole whole um, place we need to be to develop this movement, the framework. That whole culture is in us and all around us. That whole culture should develop, and then it just becomes a institution, like institutionalized in a sense that everybody is doing and chanting and thinking in the same manner. And then, as you are saying, no, Balaram Prabhu, that temples, everything will follow. Of course, the outer organizational framework needs to be there from the beginning, like Srila Prabhupada did in 66 before the Tompkins Square Park. 3 months before, in July, he established ISKCON Inc. And in October of that year he was chanting in Tompkins Square Park. So he did that. He created a framework of organizational framework also, um, and we need to do that too. But and because it develops within that womb, but the focus, the purpose is this. First is acknowledging it is all happening because of Srila Prabhupada's desire, and then having full faith in him as the spiritual master, as the incarnation of God in this form for this purpose, Shakti Avesh, and having complete faith in whatever he says, and grateful to him for what he is doing for us daily basis, and to serve him, and to hear from him Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, only from him, and like being very loyal to him, and then of course the chanting constantly. Anyone? Why don't we discuss this?
Yeah, Prabhuji, it seems like, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that Srila Prabhupada seemed to focus a lot more on the Harinam Sankirtan, going out on the street chanting, much more than people's personal japa. And we have to also bring this back to and connect it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission also. What he did, and parallel, look what Prabhupada did. Blah, blah. And do help me with this. I thought that Prabhupada started off with going to Thompson Square Park, and that's where he met the first devotees, or they saw him chanting there. And then he collected some students.
He went in October of 66.
Huh?
October of 66.
What?
Tompkins Square Park.
I mean, Thompson Square Park, he was alone, right?
No,
That's what he seemed to say himself.
ISKCON had already formed by then. ISKCON Inc. had already formed. They were already going out chanting here, there, here, there. They didn't understand how, but they were already
How did the
appreciated.
devotees first see or meet Prabhupada?
On the street. here, there, and he started doing Sanskrit classes.
No, but the class that was in the storefront, right?
Yeah.
So how did they meet before that? He was just walking around, you mean?
Well, he started doing these classes here, there. He came. We can go through that beginning diary again, one day, how we did that.
You mean, yeah, because he went to that Mayavadi's doctor
You know
studio.
what? I'm going to, all of you should come to New York, and I'm going to take you on a pilgrimage, reading the beginning diary,
Already done.
each place, and yeah, it's very good to meditate on it, on that all those pastimes, and see that whole mood,
Tattva Darshana was a come.
and chant in Tompkins Square Park. I mean, really potent. I chanted there, I think maybe for 1 year. Every day I would chant around the tree. Man, that's where I started understanding Srila Prabhupada so much better. Like, of course, I was reading constantly and Mangalarti and everything. But then after that, it's a very potent place. Dogs shit there, everything. Nobody knows. It's like material and spiritual world combined, no? Like external is material world and internal is the spiritual world going on there. Somehow it's a tirtha.
And
Okay.
then, of course, was it? And because it just came to me because you were saying Thompson Square Park, but Srila Prabhupada says that the Radha Damodara rooms and the temple there with Rupa Goswami's Samadhi is the center of the universe. And that's where, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that Rupa Goswami actually instructed him and guided him about the framework, let's say, for ISKCON.
Framework, I don't know, but like, see, there is this whole spiritual, we can't understand but whatever Srila Prabhupada is told, no? From that only we can understand what he told, what he has said is, he told him to go to the West and preach. And basically and we can see in his actions that he translated nectar of devotion and nectar of instruction. And so what I understand from that is, internally all those things I don't understand, all those whatever he told, but externally for preaching, this is what he told to preach with, like nectar of devotion and nectar of instruction, because he translated those in nectar of devotion is where we should live in, like practice science. So that's how he did it, the science of devotion service. So I mean, whatever he is doing, no, and whatever he did in New York when he came, you can just start tracing it to nectar of devotion in so many ways, so many ways. Like so many instructions of his are all nectar of devotion. And nectar of instruction, he says all about building ISKCON, association of devotees, reciprocation. It's all built upon all those instructions. So chanting Hare Krishna mantra, no? So that culture is, I was hoping we can discuss that day. You were saying about the public chanting?
Yeah,
This,
I was saying that it seems in my head is like
yeah.
that Prabhupada emphasized
You want
the
to read this letter?
Harinam.
You want to read that letter?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure. Anything that doesn't have Sanskrit or Bengali, I happily read. My dear Rai Rama, please accept my blessings.
A date is there also.
You want the date?
Hmm.
Date May 17th, 1969, which is what? 4 years into Prabhupada being in America?
Of course, 4 years, but 3 years since he actually started the movement. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So 3 years into Prabhupada's time in America. My dear Rai Rama, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated May 14th, 1969. And I have received a similar letter from Brahmananda also, that you are finding some difficulty in keeping pace regularly with the routine work. My advice to you under the circumstances is that at least for 1 hour, you must all go to have Sankirtan, I think that is right. Sankirtan outside on the streets or in the park. That is your life and soul, first business. The next business is completing the chanting of the 16 rounds every day. The next business is your editing. And if you find extra time, then you can attend the temple ceremonies. Otherwise, you can stop these activities. Otherwise, you can stop these activities, but outdoor kirtan, your editing work, and chanting 16 rounds must be done. Okay, so he's saying the other activities are secondary, let's say temple program, right?
Mhm.
Outside kirtan must be done, even at the cost of suspending all editorial work, right? So that's number one, he's saying, kirtan, sankirtan. That is your first and foremost business. Temple worship is not so important. If need be, the whole temple can be locked, but the outdoor kirtan cannot be stopped. Yeah. Regarding Birbhadra Kirtanananda is not here now. He is in North Carolina, but when he returns, I should talk with him about taking our boys to New Vrindavan. Otherwise, they will be returned to their mother in Los Angeles. Regarding the 2 books you mentioned, they are all right. I hope this will meet you in good health. P.S. I can't read that. I can't read it.
When you come to New Vrindavan, please bring
Tape recorder. The
the
tape recorder
tape recorder in
in
white box.
something box
White
lying
box
in my closet. Laying in my closet.
lying in my closet.
Yeah. Yeah. So this letter kind of confirms what I thought, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Like Sankirtan is number one.
Yeah, let's discuss this, no? Why is it like that? What is what is with the outdoor Sankirtan that is so important? And
Well,
let's
first of all, it purifies us.
why not inside?
I mean, of course, inside also. You mean inside the temple?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, inside the temple it purifies us, but let's say, just the devotees get that. But when we go outside, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada are even more pleased because if we get a plus, where as devotees we're getting purified, and simultaneously outside people are seeing us, becoming attracted to us, becoming purified, hear the mantra. So it's much more beneficial for everybody. You know, inside the temple, it's a little bit like this, what they call that bhajananandi, when you do your bhajan just for yourself. But when you go into the public, you're manifesting the mercy principle of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give it to everybody, even the most fallen. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada and the Parampara are more pleased.
Mhm. And we invoke his mercy right. Mercy. The most potent thing that because we are under so much mode of passion and ignorance, we need that mercy. So as you are saying, that invokes Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So, I mean, my personal experience is that daily, if we go out chanting daily, like all the new devotees, I tested this, all the young devotees, new devotees, man, whatever problems they were facing, all the past traumas, this, that, so many past issues, morning mind is so horrible, everything wants to leave, whatever. Just go out 1 hour, everything gets solved. Like practically, the problems become so small after that. Some problems will always be there, but every single time the holy name chanted like that. So it's not just the holy name, it is not like a bubble or like kirtan we do anytime. No, it happens in that what we just discussed, the acknowledgement and the appreciation for Srila Prabhupada, gratefulness under his direction, knowing that we chanting under his direction, he has told us to chant, and having faith in him. It's like he is the big component. And then we chant, that is like, of course, without that also chanting acts, but it is not so like chanting is always purifying, but the offenseless quality of the chanting, no? The ecstasy in the like almost immediate ecstasy, it's impossible without the pure devotee there. I mean, I personally experienced again and again with new devotees this thing. So I wanted to read, see this. Mm, see these Back to Godhead magazines. Have you read those magazines from before, early days? So if you look at this, okay, let's skip that thing. From the beginning, okay, these are all philosophy they are talking about. But then, okay, these are all celebration, and then it's all about chanting, and then it's all oh, just the first one I took up, it doesn't. Okay. Mm, Go to the next one. About Sankirtan. Mm, I'm going to show you how the culture of chanting, no? Not coming out well. It's there, but yeah, okay, you can see. Generally, the Back to Godhead magazines, you can see, and because that portrays how everyone was. See, Hansaduta and Himavati Mataji, Central Park in New York. Right? All about chanting. And the pure devotee, they're talking about, see, if I had spent more time, I would be able to point better. It's all about that chanting, 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 chanting. That's the culture. That's the movement. That is what Srila Prabhupada did. Look at this. I think this is, I don't know who that is, but chanting, chanting. And of course, and you can see the philosophy, no? I was telling you, Prabhu, remember Balaram Prabhu, that uh, early days, devotees, what we are talking so much philosophy, no? So many months, this was automatically developing. It's not something new. This is Bhagavad Vidhi in practice. Automatically, just like nothing with these under this under this environment, he developed that. The devotee, look at this, so much. Look, absorbed in the ecstasy, hours and hours and hours. It's impossible for Western kids to look at this famous guy. You remember who this is? Jayadvaita Swami.
Advaita Swami.
Look how happy he is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read this. I mean, some of the articles, if you read now, you can see, man, they are really up there in the consciousness. And what happens is the Maya is so strong that we forget. Even these devotees forgot how much in ecstasy. Look at them. I mean, I'm sorry that we are pointing out about him. Look at him. I don't know if he remembers that ecstasy. You know, one just kind of one kind of is one becomes like external if one is not in that environment of Srila Prabhupada, then that whole environment of him as pure devotee and as my all consciousness, then one becomes like external, and one kind of carries the knowledge or whatever one has more component of in the material, in the subtle body, one carries that forward, not the devotion, the ecstasy. It goes missing. That Srila Prabhupada talks about, no, philosophically, what we were seeing, the Bhaktilata bij, it changes the bija, the desire. And instead of pure devotion, one gets other bija, Jnana Mishra bij, and all these other bijas one starts getting. And it feels like the same thing. Does externally everything, everybody is doing the same thing, but inside that ecstasy goes, look, Bali Mardhan Prabhu. Look at this. And you can see so many devotees when they are chanting now, kirtan and everything. So many devotees get, but it is temporary, not like this hour, 8 hours, 10 hours a day. Trying to get to, I wish I had more time to go through that mysticism. Anyway, let's discuss this. Let's discuss this. How to develop that whole mood again, whole consciousness again. What are your views? Or should be? Because many times devotees say, no, that is a different movement. Now time has changed. Now it should be a different formula.
I mean, it's kind of, from my perception and experiences moving around, it's kind of naturally happening in some places where, and it happens more or less to the degree that each devotee has some enthusiasm and taste for Harinam. I love Harinam. And then, like, for example, when I go to London and I see the London devotees, they go every day on Harinam, and then on Saturday they have a big one with like 100 devotees, maybe much more now coming. And some people are walking and singing the Hare Krishna, their face kind of looks quite normal, but there are others that are really ecstatically, and enjoying it with blissful faces. So similarly in Mayapur, I know some groups that do Harinam like on their own. But where there's a place where the devotee or devotees are not attracted to Harinam for whatever reason, or they do it once a week or something like that, then you don't see this focus on Harinam. They have another priority, call it or whatever. So, so it seems to depend on whoever is the leader there, or if it's not the leader, then is there a devotee there who's enthusiastic about Harinam? And if there is, then he'll push and kind of start leading it and push it into the street. If there's not, kind of people, the rest anyway are not attracted to Harinam, otherwise they would be doing it. So then it doesn't go out, nothing happens.
One second. Keep talking, bro.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a natural, organic, enthusiastic thing coming from the devotee.
Right, but so back in the day, obviously they just did it on their own, right? More or less, no temple president had to tell them, okay, we have to go. I mean, of course, we just saw this letter, right?
I think they did. I think they did, right? I think Prabhupada did, because maybe it was like, well, what else are devotees going to do? They come, they join, take prasadam. Okay, what to do? They're not like.
But I mean, but if you continuously go out on the street, Sankirtan, hours a day, I mean, this cannot be forced, right? So this is not based on organization. Okay, this is what we have. I mean, there has to be a taste for it then, no?
Yeah, but like Nimai Prabhu was saying, and we see the taste comes. You see,
right, and then you do it voluntary.
Yeah. The difficulty is always getting over that initial barrier or line. I'm shy, I'm scared, I'm tired. So many times I hear this with devotees, oh, I really didn't want to go on Haram, but I'm so glad somebody pulled me, somebody pushed me. So when you just get out there, and I think that time there was a push by Prabhupada or by the temple president, says like, well, okay, you have to do some service. There's nothing, go out Harinam. That's our service, Harinam. And of course, there were great stories of Vishnu Jan Swami. But once they got into it and they began to get a taste, then that's when you see what's it called? Spontaneous nature of wanting to do Harinam comes more and more into play. And then that fire kind of jumps to other people also and starts to affect them. Wow, they're so happy and blissful in Harinam. I want to go on Harinam. And there's this thing. But these days, definitely the Harinam has taken well, not Harinam, everything, every activity has taken is like down, right? Book distribution is
So
Harinam.
is it like in this letter, right? So when Prabhupada states there, okay, that's basically the first business, everything else is secondary. So temple activity, secondary, you can stop the editing work, temple activities you can stop, you can lock the temple basically. Right.
Yeah.
So even becomes and there would be one interesting question, because it looked like in the letter, right? So it goes before chanting japa.
Yes.
So in once it would be the question. So if you only do Sankirtan, do you need to chant japa? Will it even supersede that? Right. It's not specifically mentioned, but it looked like in the letter that actually yes. Because then it's basically do the same thing, right? It just is like the holy name is there, japa or kirtan.
No, but Prabhupada says in that letter that you must. I think 3 activities said a must. The rest you can, be flexible about that. Go out on Harinam.
Yeah, but business. So you said this is like the main business, right? Main business is not like do japa in the temple, right?
Yeah,
temple can be locked. I'm just.
He
Right.
said, if you read that letter again, he said, you must go on Harinam, you must do 16 rounds, you must do your editing work.
Yes,
So
yes.
the rest can be secondary, but these three must be done.
Right, but then he says, can we show this letter again? Because you can even, I mean, you can even lock the temple. You can even stop the editing work, right? Suspending all. You can even do, suspending all editorial work. That is your first and foremost business. Of course, he's not saying you can, suspending your 16 rounds for doing Sankirtan. But that, I mean, in my mind, that's kind of a natural question that would arise, if you
But
do full time.
yeah,
Not that it's not really important. It's not really important as a question, but I'm just saying.
I think he did. I mean, this is again, we're falling into speculation, but let's
Yeah.
speculate on Sam Prabhupada. I don't think he means no more editing as in a daily, for weeks and weeks and months. No, he just means even if you have to stop editing work, because it sounds like he's the temple president, you
Yeah.
lock the temple, go out with Harinam, make sure everybody does Harinam 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many hours, and then come back and then do your editing. So that,
Right.
even if you have to close the temple to go out to do Harinam, do that to make sure that Harinam gets done. But it doesn't mean actually,
No, of course, right. It's just basically prioritizing. And that's why where I'm also that's where I also say that is your life and soul first business, right? Life and soul first business is Sankirtan, not
yeah,
Japa. But of course, you have to do Japa every day, of course.
exactly. Yeah.
But if you even have to prioritize there, it's not saying here anyway, but it sounds to me that even then, life and soul is first business
No,
is
no,
second.
no, 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 no. The correct balance is, let's just say, if we have a 12-hour day, then okay, if you got the 4 hours doing Harinam, 2 hours to do your japa, and then doing editing. So these three must be done in what order and how much quantity they're done. Obviously, 16 rounds have to be done. So that's
Yeah.
whatever time needs. Editing work, he has to have time for editing. So then you just mix with enough Harinam that you have time to do editing. Of course, he's the editor, so he's a little bit different and he's the temple leader. But then the other devotees who are not involved in temple presidency or editing work, so maybe as we heard lots of times, they were doing 8 hours, 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours. And they were going, I heard many times they were coming back like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night.
Yep. Yep. And it's also like a temple activity, right? So the japa is like a personal activity. Sankirtan is more like a yeah, community or outdoor activity, right? A
Eh,
representing activity.
yeah.
So and that is like editorial, temple worship. Sankirtan is basically this category, and japa is like a personal category. So that's why it's not probably mentioned here again.
Plus, we have to remember also the Harinam Sankirtan on the streets. That is the main activity which gets attention and gets people to
Right, right.
come,
Gets
ask
attraction. Yeah,
questions, come to the
exactly.
temple, take books or
Exactly.
whatever.
The thing is
So
the
that,
chanting, the Sankirtan, no, the Harinam party, Prabhupada called it the Kirtan party. So that becomes the main focus, main activity, main moment is that. Like that.
Everything else is supporting.
Yeah. That's not like it's a public relation. I mean, not like that, okay, this is our way of getting people. No, the main is that. And we are asking people to come join us in that, to experience the ecstasy. So Gauranga Sundar Prabhu is making the very good point that now it has become like, walking around and looking here, there, and many times you don't really get into it. And I've experienced both ways. And years we used to do this. I tried to develop a temple or a party like this, a group of what we are talking about, focused on chanting daily. And in that whole process, I was trying to like understand, can we build this thing even now? Is it possible to do? So I remember from 2000, think September, 2001, September, August, July, August, I started feeling like really inspired from walking around and chanting around the Tompkins Square Park and started understanding, man, I have to do this every day, going out. And I was reading all these letters of Srila Prabhupada talking about even 1 hour a day. I said, okay, I need to do that every day. So I started going to Tompkins Square Park, then the Union Square Park. I remember going from there to here, chanting every day. I think I was alone first, and then Madhavananda Prabhu joined with the Mridanga, and then gradually, then one thing it led to another, and then gradually the party developed like that. And I remember we had to understand how to chant more than an hour or two. It becomes boring if we don't like really understand how to do it. So, and then I remember later on, after a year or so now, then it became like natural. Even for 6, 8 hours, one can chant, no problem. And it's like how to go from less 1 hour, 2 hour to 6, 8, 10 hour chanting, no? That whole it's a whole consciousness change, a culture change, a habit forming. And what I was telling about, like, uh, unless one is getting, it is impossible. It's impossible to do something like this for hours and hours and hours, hours and hours, daily, like daily basis. So for that, there is a whole culture of how to chant, the tunes, kartal, mridanga, the consciousness, everything has to like build up to it. Like you make and you can't just do it alone because you're doing it together. And if somebody is doing something else, then it disturbs. No, everybody gets disturbed in the whole scheme. So you get everybody on the same, and everybody should be experiencing the same thing also. Uh, Tunes, mridanga, kartal, how many kartals which sound, how big a kartal, so that I learned a few things. I mean, initially, I couldn't figure out how, when he's saying, I was reading these letters and he's saying go out and party, and nobody could tell me and it's how to do it, because no one was doing it in 2001. Then Hamsadutta Prabhu came by one day. In I think it was March or April of 2001. He swung, maybe June of 2001. He swung by. And he was there for 2, 3 days. Oh my God! I asked him everything I could ask him about it, because then I started understanding he actually started the Sankirtan party, as we call it, as devotees used to call it. No, later on, Srila Prabhupada called it, because Srila Prabhupada, of course, he started doing this chanting and everything. But as a party, like everybody going out, the whole temple, and then everybody organized in a certain manner and chanting on the streets, and then distributing BTG and books. That party, the structure of it, Hamsasudha did in Central Park. Later on, I heard and from other devotees and also from Srila Prabhupada's letters, but he told me this beginning. So then, my God, asked him everything I could. He told me, and then I asked him, see, I'm not able to understand. Can you take us out? And he took us out on Sankirtan. He showed me how to do a party, how to structure it, the consciousness, the Sankirtan leader, how it should be like, how we should be making sure everything is working together. It's like a whole thing. You like on orchestra, not like a musical kind of thing, but to keep everybody in that mood and consciousness, and that, of course, that will come. at part 8, 9, 10 maybe. And then then they became very envious and they attacked. And I've been in it for the last 20 years, but not to go in that direction. But the point is that there is the even now we can develop that culture, the Sankirtan party culture every day morning till evening, maybe take a break. But the way it was like we studied all the devotees, we studied Srila Prabhupada's letters daily basis on how what he's saying, okay, prasadam, how to cook, when to eat, how to facilitate us going out every day, what should we distribute at the outside in the party, books or letters, whether we should be doing books with it or not, what kind of musical instruments we should play. Like we really designed it according to his letters, you know, like which all like a whole thing we develop like that. So whoever devotees are there who are listening and who will listen later to this, uh, anywhere in the world, even now, like okay, so that is a little bit I have to qualify. When he said the framework, he is talking about a large part of it is in the Western world, US, basically North America, also South America, um, and European countries, Australia, New Zealand. India was different. India, he went there in 71, 72 to set up in framework there. And he actually told in India not to do street Sankirtan, to do temple buildings and prasadam distribution, which is so beautifully, wonderfully being done by Madhu Pandit Prabhu and Bangalore devotees in India. I mean, they are being empowered by Srila Prabhupada. Again and again, I see from so many ways the right intelligence, the empowerment is coming from Srila Prabhupada because he understood this is the framework, but that doesn't work in the US. And even they are trying to do the same thing in the US. It doesn't work because it's a separate framework in the US and in Western countries. It is, and it is like focused on these things, Srila Prabhupada, the holy name, and the philosophy around it. But it has to come from the holy name, first of all, outside Sankirtan. And in Muslim countries, I don't know what the framework is, or Srila Prabhupada did it. That's why you are getting all this mercy you're trying to figure out. China, we don't know, yeah, what it is.
Yeah, there are many places in the world, even Russia in those days, and now of course in Muslim countries and such anti-religious countries that they don't allow Sankirtan, don't allow anything on the streets, public, nothing. You have to find, let's say, new ways actually to, let's say, preach. I mean, not new from your speculation, but based upon what Prabhupada is saying, whatever, but you have to adjust the situation. We don't have a model. We don't have a
Yeah.
template, like, in
Mm.
the West, and to preach to Christians, Prabhupada did that most of the time.
So, of course, he set up the framework to preach and develop Krishna consciousness to a certain level, then to mold it and organize it and really impactfully like establish it. He was going to develop the Varnashrama system among the devotee community and among the outside public. So that is the only thing one could add to that structure. You see, that's what I'm doing, trying to do now to understand that whole thing. Yeah. Like from my point of view, I wanted to understand whether, I mean, so many devotees were saying so many things. Oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. That doesn't work. Senior devotees. I try to do the same thing what Srila Prabhupada, it works. But what doesn't work is afterwards what happened after 2, 3, 4 years of devotees chanting. No? What happens then? want to get married, children. That's where, how does the Sankirtan party continue? That part was not solved even when Srila Prabhupada was manifesting his pastime because his focus was different.
But
And
can I ask you,
Yeah.
this new, is it called New Vrindavan, the Golden Temple?
Yeah.
Well, that was a huge farm community, right, Varnashram?
he didn't really establish the Varnashram there. It was just a farm with a communal living. That is not a Varnashram system as given in his own books. It's like more like kibbutz, which is not
You're frozen, so we can't hear you.
living to get people in that, even in the farms, to have strength from unity, living together, doing work together. But as he writes in his books, the three varnas, they have to be financially independent. It is right there, black and white, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. What are their activities? What are their varnas, ashramas, everything? So those have to be implemented. And that's what he said he wanted to do in Gita Nagari. He gave a whole blueprint of what he wanted to do. And so that part is the only thing which we need to add to which he already gave the framework. No? In the Western countries, I'm saying about India, he showed how to do, and I know devotees, they are doing it really, really, really well. I mean, 1,000 times better than what Srila Prabhupada showed to do like that. They just built upon Srila Prabhupada's mercy and his dynamic direction now to do it better and better and better and better. It just keeps on increasing. Anandam Udi Vardhanam. So devotees in the West, we also have to, take inspiration, but not emulate the behavior, the activities of Bangalore devotee, because it can't be done in the West.
So can I?
Yeah.
There's one interesting one interesting point of view here. Because you also said, right, so Srila Prabhupada started basically the Sankirtan only after establishing the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So there was already a place where interested people could come to and get more involved into the philosophy, etc. And I think maybe that's then also the point that is kind of missing, right? So so let's say so could you, I mean, in New York maybe you could, right? So you have there's a center, but to really start then the Sankirtan movement and people come to a center where the actual philosophy, the actual setup is kind of still existing in a dormant stage, but it's still existing, right? And which is different from maybe the rest of the. So and what I wanted to. So if you do Sankirtan today somewhere else where there is a center maybe, but it's not really connected it's not really deeply connected with Srila Prabhupada then, with Srila Prabhupada's framework, then maybe that's then why it's not as easy as it seemed to be before, when devotees were so enthusiastically going on kirtan for hours and hours. So is this like a necessary factor? So you have a proper center, proper framework set up so that you can invite more people basically. And if that's not there, then okay, you can do Sankirtan, you can invite people to your home or something, but the
It's like
result,
gradations, no? The result of going out and doing Sankirtan, like Balaram Prabhu said, you get like extreme mercy, extreme fallen. But his holy name is, the potency in holy name is is already there, no? Even in japa we will find that same potency.
Yeah, I mean, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there are no hard and fast rules, right?
Yeah.
I've invested all my transcendental energies in my name. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting.
So, but is it then just that, okay, because today, as in the letter is stated, okay, our first business, our soul, life and soul is Sankirtan, and why is it not? Why is it? Or it seems to be. I would also say, it's not anymore in the movement as in general. So today more is like, okay, what kind of property? How do we maintain all the big temples, and the main focus doesn't seem to book distribution, right? So that's maybe still there in places. But Sankirtan in general, I don't see. I mean, sure, it's not that it's not there. Just in comparison from what we saw, like in the Back to Godhead magazines now, it seems not to be life and soul anymore.
But actually, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What's our purpose in discussing this?
So for me, it was like, because it's part of the framework, right? So Nimai Pandit said that this is basically the major part of the framework, not so much the organizational. It's also, but not so much. And I was just asking or arguing, okay, but chronologically, the Sankirtan as an outside activity started after establishing the centers, or after establishing the ISKCON. So it's not that Prabhupada started it before establishing it. Is that right?
It's not like one or other, no? So here,
But where you can invite people if you don't have, if you're not established.
well, the
I
thing
mean,
is that
yeah. Go ahead.
it is not like we need something. This was a whole thing that I understood we need to overcome, and I struggle with it still. It's this Maya, that we need something to chant or to do this. Every day, I remember we were going out, every single day there would be some or the other obstacle or some mental obstacle. Let us do this so that we can, do that. And every time then, oh my God, this Krishna this Maya just takes us in another direction. There is nothing required, like nothing we should be thinking that it is dependent on anything. So see, this purposes of ISKCON, no? This is for which he Srila Prabhupada made the organization. The purposes. The purposes is what are these? Thus, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the technique of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. To propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large, spelling is wrong, that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead Krishna. To teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to erect for the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. And the seventh, for a view towards achieving these six purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. Now, this this is why he made this corporation, this society.
Hmm.
But if it is not there, still the purposes can be done, no? Limited, because a organization will
Right, right.
propagate it more, but it can be done any place, anytime, anywhere, all these things. And we should do that. We can't stop for anything. So when he made it in July, and then the chant, it wasn't, it was all because Srila Prabhupada is already in his mind, his desire and everything is there. And I mean, through whoever, he is already doing it, like this lawsuit is going on and everything, it will happen, no? Hopefully it will happen that the same society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc., it will come. But even if it does not, and I'll die if it doesn't, but it does not, this movement will go on, no? This purpose is, see, he wrote this simultaneously, no? I don't know if all of you have read this thing. Have you all read this? This
I definitely read it at some point, but of course I'm not. It's not that I read it every day.
So it's really interesting to read this. So 7 purposes are in short given, but here he is giving in much more detail what he wants to do, his desires. Somebody would like to read the objectives for which the society.
I mean, do we have to read it now?
Okay, we
Do
don't.
you think? So
So
maybe my question also comes from the experience that so if there's struggle in the temple, right, and if the community, if the devotee community itself is already not in sync, let's say, right, so they're not really constant arguing or whatever, right, so then of course it's harder, maybe just on a mental level, to go out, do Sankirtan, invite people to a place where you already know from personal experience for months and years that actually that's not a place where I would like to invite everyone. I would like to invite everyone to the philosophy and to Prabhupada and everything, but somehow something is missing in a particular temple. So why would I, as an individual, be
why are we thinking of inviting people then? No? Why don't we just go and give Krishna to them and come back? For our benefit and their benefit, to chant and hear.
yeah, true. So you can invite them to the philosophy, and you can invite them to Krishna and all that. But if you constantly I mean, that's, I don't know, because you can argue. So why all the struggle with? I mean, there's still some framework you can. Why not invite everyone to ISKCON Mayapur or to ISKCON Vrindavan or?
Inviting, no? That's why I mean,
Bring everyone there, do Sankirtan. So because
next,
then where's the harm, just do Sankirtan wherever they go, even if they go to a completely different
the next stage,
branch of the movement, not even ISKCON. So where's of course on this level, there's no harm in doing that, right?
but the first stage is to chant, no? And do Sankirtan, do our duty. So we should just do that. No? And the next stage of more preaching is where to invite them. I mean, right now, one can invite one home and tell them don't associate with anybody if that is not working out. I mean, the first thing is that if there is a association where this desire to please Srila Prabhupada, that gratefulness to him and that love for him, and that constantly talking about him as him being, because of him we are doing this, that is not there, no, then that association I will never invite anybody. it is like suicide for them, because they're just going to just become a
But
neophyte.
just okay, but then still, I mean, of course, then the association separates, not naturally. So over time, then you
To
would not.
develop, one has to develop in one's own location that consciousness, that like new people, if they are coming, we have to bring them to Srila Prabhupada, not to us. I mean, we have to carry Srila.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's all. And if there is any other association which is going to disturb it, then we have to disassociate. Like we have been talking about all these months about that. And if it is there that it is only possible in our home, it is only in our home. And if we don't feel like we can do that, then don't invite anybody. Just chant and give, and let Krishna take care about where
Yeah.
they go, what not. But at least that first part is taken care. No? Srila Prabhupada's order to go out and do chanting and preaching and Sankirtan for our own to receive our own mercy from Krishna. That's the thing. So this one question which is always like we had in mind, and many devotees that I used to grapple with, was this, that you chant and dance, but what about books? And then I found this letter of Srila Prabhupada. Regarding your question, this is in 1973. Huh? So by this till this time, uh, this so 67, 60. Okay, let me see this. This is 68 March, 1968 March. And mind you, Srila Prabhupada, 1 year back here, 1 year and 3 months back, he had gone to San Francisco. And just the moment was just forming how to do this, how to, like, what do you do with everybody? So Hamsaduta Prabhu, he wrote to Hamsaduta and Himavati, they're together. The attitude of service is so nice. I'm pleased to hear that you have begun practicing for the Kirtan party. Please keep me informed how you're progressing. Now, this is different from daily Sankirtan, which they were already doing. This Kirtan about do performances. Please keep me informed as you're progressing. Yes, if you like, you can also arrange for costumes and wig. One boy may be so plays, like all of this. There's so many letters he's telling him about that word Sankirtan, like making a performance out of it, but being chanted by, he calls them pure devotees. But this movement, the Kirtan party movement, daily from 67 onwards, it spread. And now we are 6 years later, it's already set. Everybody was chanting and everything. But then 72 December or sometime like that, book distribution picked up, really picked up. So now Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, he was a temple president in Philadelphia at that time. He had just become temple president. He was also, I think, studying or working outside, and then he was. So he asked this question. Regarding your question, is it all right to assign the entire Sankirtan party for distributing books so that no one will be free for street chanting? Of course, we should not understanding the meaning. We should not understand the meaning of Sankirtan very narrowly, that only chanting and dancing and playing instruments. No. Sankirtana means to glorify the Lord in a congregational manner. So if many devotees are going out daily on the streets and public places for distributing our literature, that is also Sankirtan, even if there is no one chanting. Hearing and chanting are essential process for Sankirtan. So if someone is hearing us singing on the street, or if he is purchasing one book, and if he reads sincerely, these two activities are the same. So if there is any occasion of necessity, if there are not very many men available, or if there is prohibition by the municipal authorities, something like this, that we may assign everyone for distributing our literatures. There is no loss for that. But it is always better if there are also some devotees chanting loudly on the street. If there is even one man to two men or a small party who are chanting Hare Krishna, that will increase also the book sales. So if there are sufficient men and if we have got some sanction by the authorities, it is always better to have at least a small party chanting along with as many distributors of books as possible. Hoping this meets you in good health, your ever well wisher. So, so what happened is and one can see that when one is distributing books, one is feeling the same experience, just like chanting on the streets. But as we can see, Srila Prabhupada is talking about chanting holy name also, together. And this is how we experienced also that chanting and distributing books together works the best. And Hansadutta, I asked this question to Hansadutta, he says that initially also they were doing something like this, but it was because they were so new and like everybody was feeling so happy chanting. So mostly everyone would chant and dance. And then he was saying that how, because it was a new thing in New York, people would gather around, and then some devotees, especially Matajis, would go around distributing BTGs. And Hamsada said he figured that out, that because they're gathering, he was saying, oh, they're just standing there and going away without anything and they had no money. So he started to, like, they were already transcribing Srila Prabhupada's lectures at the time. So he started printing them out, different copies, and he was giving them for like some cents. And that's how they started getting income. Then he realized, oh, this is great. And then they were printing the BTGs, which they were doing, but very rarely, like here and there, the BTG was print out. But then when they found that they can make money like this, then they started printing in large quantities and taking them with them, and then they were distributing. When the book started coming out, then they also added, that's why they had the 68, they had the small Bhagavad Gita without Sanskrit. And they would give out that too, small book. So so it was like this. So all the devotees were chanting in the party, and they would gather one place and they would chant, 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 and people would gather. And then the Matajis and Prabhu will go, and then the incense sticks was there. That was like an introduction. Incense stick you'd give, and then you start talking and then give the BTG and explain what is going on as an information booklet in a sense. But then ask for donation also for it. And and then the books follow and everything. Gradually, as the book distribution increased, the Sankirtan party started breaking up. But Hamsada Prabhu says that in Germany, what he did was he was doing this formula, which Srila Prabhupada writes here. The Sankirtan was going on. He also started mixing the record and everything, but that was not very good. Srila Prabhupada didn't like that so much. But chanting the street Sankirtan going on while devotees would go all around, like in many devotees would go and distribute books all around. And I found that for younger devotees, especially, it is much easier and nicer to chant Hare Krishna mantra. Some devotees are able to do books, no problem. They really like it meeting people, but most devotees are not like that. So for most devotees, young devotees, new devotees, it is always good to just chant. As more mature devotees, more older devotees, they can do more of books, and then switching back and forth between chanting and books, but more books. And then the younger devotees can do more chanting and then sometimes doing small books, magazines. Magazine is so easy to give out because people are looking for, what are you doing? What is this? Even now, when we go, people gather, especially if there are, there's a crowded places. But it has become tough, more and more, tougher and tougher since other than big cities, you don't find people in the West. Everyone is on the computer. And so that's a whole thing which we have to discuss how to go about doing it when we are not in big cities. Anyway, any other thing to discuss? Okay. There's a lot to be said. We need to develop this culture, of chanting. Rasabihari Prabhu.
Haribo,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Please accept my most worthless obeisances.
What do you have to say?
Uh, well, as you were speaking, I was just reminiscing about my times in Germany as well as in Govangad, and it aligned perfectly with the letters. In Germany, even because we do send kirtan, like really nice with microphones and a speaker and a nice tent set up in downtown Frankfurt um, every Saturday. And I would get a lot of people out, and it'd be about three devotees dedicated to the chanting and playing mridanga and kartals and the harmonium. The rest of us would be around the tent or going all around doing the book distribution. And that was always that Saturdays we always gave away the most books. But every other day there wouldn't be much chanting besides me because I really liked singing. So I would walk around and I didn't speak much Deutsch, so I would just chant. I would chant and sing and try to attract people that way. And everyone else, would do their typical book distribution, wherever their opening lines are. And so, we stayed in line with the instructions that you just read. And in Govangard, it was mainly, the Matajis were in the back singing and dancing, and all of the Prabhus were in the front, and dancing and singing. And the kids would run around with the pamphlets and the smaller books and run up to everyone and try to get them to take a book. So all those kids had a lot of confidence and were really open and not scared or shy. So it was easy for them. But in the beginning, most people aren't really ready to do all of the talking and explaining that comes with book distribution. So I give it the same, and most people like to chant.
Mhm.
But yeah, from my experiences, is the places I've been aligned perfectly with the wishes of Prabhupada.
Mm. So these are proper devotees. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's, anyone else has any other topic to discuss? Well, tomorrow we'll take up this whole thing about, next week we'll take up about devotee association, no, as another framework that he built. I mean, there is so much we can discuss about the chanting, how Srila Prabhupada was chanting in one tune. I mean, we discovered that unless we chant in one tune, we can't chant for 8 hours. It's impossible. One devotee cannot chant, at least. Keep changing and get disturbed and everything. But for one devotee to chant 8 hours and go into this whole meditative mode is one tune and meditating on the mantra. It just goes on and on and on, and then it becomes like a natural thing for the soul. Just there is nothing is on self-driving.
In my Pandit Prabhu, is there any chance, because I feel it seems like very, very important that the discussion you had with Hansaduta Prabhu about everything, but Kirtan also, if you can make a video recollecting all the stuff that he shared with you, you can just put it on YouTube and it can be there for everybody when you have time, of course.
Sure, it was 25 years back, or 24, kind of. But I remember these main things, and it suddenly it pops up in my head.
Hmm.
Suddenly, oh, I remember he said like that. I remember like that. I don't have that right there. But it is all there in Srila Prabhupada letters here and there. I always find them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, to just have it collected
Yeah, yeah.
all about Kirtan and Hansadud and how he started then, what guidance Prabhupada gave him like this, like that. Then, it could be there as one packet about Harinam. But anyway, it's okay. No worries.
He talked about two people doing. He told me 6 people need to be there for a Sankirtan party. One chanting, one dancing minimum, and then 2 mridanga, 2 kartal, or I forget. There is a letter of Srila Prabhupada explaining that also. But it was like he told me 6 people make a Sankirtan party, and that's how he was doing in groups like that also. I used to do that. I learned from him. So kind of I tested here. They were finally found him, and 6 people make it a really enlivening party. One is distributing, and yeah, 6 people make it the perfect party. I need to do that, man. I need to do that daily. At least an hour. Okay, so why don't we go to the next week then? Next week we'll take up this whole thing about devotee association and how all of this works only in a devotee association and how it enhances, how Srila Prabhupada set up that framework of devotee association. What he did. Okay. Hare Krishna everyone. Dhanvat pranam. Vanchakalpati.
Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki